Hi everyone. Today I'm going to talk about art and history in modern China. The timeline of my presentation has three main periods. The first period is late Qing and Republican China from 1895 to 1949. The second period is the Sino-Japanese War from 1937 to 1945. The last period is the Cultural Revolution from 1966 to 1976. I will explain the important historical events during these three periods and also show how art reflected society at the time. First, let's talk about the late Qing period. During the 1800s, the Qing dynasty became weaker while many Western countries became more powerful. Foreign countries wanted more trade and influence in China. One major problem was opium. Opium was a dangerous drug that foreign merchants sold to Chinese people. Many people became addicted to it. Opium addiction weakened people's health and also damaged China's economy and society. At that time, many Chinese people were suffering because of drug addiction. This situation eventually led to the Opium War between China and Britain. Later, Chinese officials finally realized how harmful opium was. One important historical event was called Humen Xiaoyan, or the destruction of opium at Humen. In this event, large amounts of opium was destroyed publicly to show resistance against the drug trade. After this event, more people began to understand the dangers of opium. Artists and writers also started creating propaganda posters, newspapers, and political cartoons. Many artworks during this time warned people not to use drugs and encouraged people to save the country. This is one important thing we can notice about modern Chinese art. Art was often used to influence public opinion and politics, not only for beauty. During this period, there were also two important upsprings in Chinese history, the Boxer Rebellion and the Xinhai Revolution. First is the Boxer Rebellion. The Boxer Rebellion happened around 1900. A group called the Boxers believed that foreign countries and foreign influence were harming China. Their goal was to resist foreign control and protect Chinese culture and society. However, in reality, they faced a very difficult situation. At that time, China was being pressured by the eight-nation alliance. These countries included United Kingdom, the United States, France, Germany, Russia, Japan, Italy, and Austria-Hungary. Because these countries had much stronger military powers and technology, the Boxer Rebellion was eventually defeated. Even though the rebellion failed, it still became an important historical event because it showed the anger and frustration many Chinese people felt towards foreign control. Many artworks and illustrations from this period showed patriotic themes. Some artworks showed Chinese people fighting against foreign armies, while others showed the suffering caused by imperialism and war. Next is the Xinhai Revolution. The Xinhai Revolution happened in 1911 and became one of the most important revolutions in Chinese history. Its main goal was to overthrow the Qing dynasty and end the imperial monarchy, and that had ruined China for 1,000 years. This revolution also represented resistance against long-term oppression and corruption. Although China still faced many problems afterwards, the revolution successfully ended the Qing dynasty and created the Republic of China. Art during this period became more modern. Newspapers, political posters, and printed images became more common because printing technology improved. Artists started mixing traditional Chinese styles with Western ideas. Art became a way to spread revolutionary ideas and nationalism. Next, we move to the Sino-Japanese War. This war officially began after the Lugo Bridge incident in 1937. The Lugo Bridge incident became the trigger for full war between China and Japan. The timeline of this period is very intense. First, the Lugo Bridge incident happened in July 1937. Then from August to November, the Battle of Shanghai took place. After that, in December, the Battle of Nanjing happened. Finally, on December 13, 1937, the Nanjing Massacre began. Many Chinese people still remember 1937 as one of the darkest years in modern Chinese history. The Lugo Bridge incident happened on the night of July 7, 1937. During a Japanese military exercise near Lugo Bridge, the Japanese army claimed that one of their soldiers had disappeared. They used this as an excuse to demand entry into Wanping City. When the Chinese side refused, fighting began. The Chinese 29th Army defended the area and resisted the Japanese attack. In some historical photographs, we can see Chinese soldiers defending the bridge. Other pictures show Japanese soldiers celebrating after the battle. Japan won the battle, and after this event, the situation in China became more worse. This marked the beginning of the full Sino-Japanese War. At this time, wartime propaganda art became extremely important. Both governments used posters, newspapers, photographs, and paintings to influence public opinion. Chinese propaganda posters often encouraged people to unite, resist invasion, and protect the country. Many artworks focused on patriotism and sacrifice. Next is the Battle of Shanghai. The Battle of Shanghai started on August 13, 1937. This battle became one of the largest and bloodiest battles in the earlier stage of the war. Nearly 1 million soldiers from both China and Japan participated. Although China eventually lost the battle, the Chinese army proved that Japan could not easily conquer China. Japan originally expected to win very quickly, but Chinese resistance lasted much longer than expected. The battle also gave China vulnerable time to move factories and industries inland to safer areas. However, the human cost was terrible. More than 25,000 Chinese soldiers were killed or injured. The artworks and photographs from this period are extremely emotional. One famous image is Bloody Saturday, photographed by Huang Haisheng in August 1937. The photograph shows a crying baby sitting alone among the ruins of the destroyed train station after a Japanese bombing attack. This image became internationally famous because it showed the suffering of innocent civilians during war. Another artwork from this period is the Chinese National Revolutionary Army propaganda poster from 1937. The poster encouraged resistance against Japan and promoted national unity. These artworks were not only historical records. They were also emotional tools meant to inspire people and gain international sympathy. Next is the Battle of Nanjing. After the Battle of Shanghai, Japanese force moved towards to Nanjing, which was the capital city of China at the time. The Battle of Nanjing happened in December 1937. Chinese soldiers defended the city, but Japanese force has superior military strength and equipment. Eventually, Chinese defense collapsed, and Nanjing fell on December 13th. I can hardly find more photographs or artwork about the Battle of Nanjing because it's a very short battle, and soon after, the Nanjing Massacre began. The Nanjing Massacre, also called the Rape of Nanking, lasted for about 6 weeks. During this time, the Japanese army committed mass killings, sexual violence, looting, and other war crimes against Chinese civilians and surrendered soldiers. Historians estimate that between 10,000 and 30,000 people were killed. This event became one of the most traumatic events in modern Chinese history. Many photographs, paintings, memorial sculptures, and museum exhibits later documented the massacre. One artwork I found shows how some Japanese newspapers celebrated military officers who competed to kill large numbers of people. This shows how extreme wartime propaganda and militarism had become at this time. Another image from a Chinese museum shows foreign workers creating safety zones inside Nanjing to protect women and children from violence. The artworks connected to the Nanjing massacre are very emotional and serious. Unlike earlier patriotic posters, these artworks often focus on grief, suffering, memory, and mourning. Now we move to the final period, the Cultural Revolution. This period happened from 1966 to 1976. The Cultural Revolution was started by Mao Zedong. Its goal was to remove capitalist and traditional ideas from Chinese society. Mao called it this movement's destroying the four olds, which means old costumes, old culture, old habits, and old ideas. This movement caused major political and social chaos across China. Millions of people were persecuted. Many teachers, artists, and officers were publicly humiliated or punished. Large amounts of historical buildings, books, artworks, and cultural heritage were destroyed. This period is still very sensitive in China today, which made me especially curious to research it. Art during the Cultural Revolution changed dramatically. At this time, almost all public art became propaganda. Many propaganda posters prized Mao Zedong and promoted loyalty to the Communist Party. Artists were expected to create politically correct works instead of expressing personal feelings or creativity. This style is sometimes called red pop art. The artworks often use strong red colors, and Mao was usually shown as heroic, powerful, and almost larger than life. Many posters showed smiling workers, soldiers, and farmers supporting the revolution. Compared to earlier wartime art, Cultural Revolution's art feel much more controlled and politically organized. One very frightening part of the Cultural Revolution was the struggle session. During struggle sessions, people accused of being anti-party were publicly humiliated in front of crowds. Teachers and officers and artists were common targets. People were forced to wear signs with insulting words written on them and sometimes tall hats. Crowds shouted insults and humiliated them in public. Many photographs from this period document these events. One famous photographer named Li Zhensheng secretly documented many scenes from the Cultural Revolution. His photographs later became important historical evidence showing the chaos and violence during this period. Finally, let's compare the art styles from these different time periods. During the late Qing and Republican period, art focused more on modernization, nationalism, and resistance against foreign influence. During the Sino-Japanese War, art focused heavily on survival, unity, patriotism, and the suffering caused by war. During the Cultural Revolution, art became much more controlled by politics and propaganda. Personal artist expression became less important than politic messages. By looking at these artworks, we can see that art is closely connected to the history and society. My conclusion is that art is deeply influenced by politics and historical events. In modern Chinese history, art was often used to shape public opinion, spread political ideas, and reflect people's emotions during difficult times. At the same time, art also helps us remember history. Even today, these artworks and photographs allowed people to understand what life was like during these important historical periods. And these are my bibliography. Thank you for watching.